There are people in your life right now who smile at you, laugh with you, maybe even pray with you, but deep down, they don't want to see you win. And the truth is, you don't always catch them by yourself. Sometimes it takes God to pull back the curtain and show you who's real and who's just pretending. Listen, God doesn't expose fake people in your life to embarrass you. He does it to protect you, because you can't step into your purpose dragging around dead weight. There are moments when you can't quite put your finger on it, but something inside of you feels off around certain people. It's not about what they said, it's not even about what they did, it's just a stirring in your spirit that doesn't let you rest easy. That's not something to brush off. That's not your imagination running wild. That's God. See, we often pray for Him to reveal the truth, but the truth doesn't always come with flashing lights or a big announcement. Sometimes the truth comes as quiet discomfort, a subtle weight pressing on your chest when you're sitting across the table from someone who doesn't mean you well. Think about it. You meet someone, and on paper, they check all the boxes. They smile in your face, they say the right things, maybe they even hang out with you consistently, but deep down, you never feel fully safe letting your guard down. You tell yourself, maybe it's me, maybe I'm being too sensitive, but that unsettled feeling keeps coming back. That's not paranoia, that's discernment. That's the Spirit of God doing what He promised, leading you into all truth. Discomfort is one of God's ways of speaking without words. You might not hear a voice from heaven saying, "This person is fake," but you will feel an uneasiness that tells you to pay attention. And here's where many people get it wrong. They override that discomfort. They silence it because they don't want to seem judgmental, or they convince themselves that love means ignoring red flags. But love doesn't mean ignoring truth. Love doesn't mean walking into a trap blindfolded. God places that check in your spirit as a warning, and if you ignore it, you'll end up learning the hard way. You know how you can walk into a room, and without anyone saying a word, you can feel the energy shift. You sense tension. You sense insincerity. You sense something hidden under the surface. That's not superstition. That's spiritual sensitivity. God created you with a spirit that can pick up on things your mind hasn't processed yet. Your body reacts. Your peace gets disturbed. Conversations that should feel light suddenly feel heavy. Jokes that should feel natural feel forced. You find yourself going home drained instead of filled. Pay attention to that. That's God saying, look closer. And here's what's powerful about this. The discomfort doesn't go away with time. It actually grows. The more you interact with that person, the more you feel it. They could be telling you everything you want to hear, but your spirit won't let you get comfortable. That's how God protects you. Because if you felt at ease with everyone, you trust the wrong people with the wrong criteria. Discomfort is God's way of pulling you back, saying, don't give this person access they don't deserve. Sometimes it looks like tension in conversations. You share something vulnerable, and instead of feeling understood, you walk away feeling exposed. Sometimes it looks like hesitation. You hesitate before calling them, hesitate before inviting them, hesitate before opening them. That hesitation is a signal. Don't ignore it. It's not just shyness. It's not just insecurity. It's discernment rising up inside of you, whispering that something about this connection isn't healthy. God reveals fake people not by shouting their names out loud, but by disturbing your peace when you're around them. And notice this, real friends don't bring chaos to your spirit. Real friends might correct you, they might challenge you, but even in disagreement, you still feel safe. Fake people, on the other hand, create unease even in agreement. You can agree on every surface, level thing, but something still feels wrong. That's the spirit showing you that the surface isn't the whole story. The truth is, you'll never need to force peace when it's real. Peace comes naturally with the right people. But with the wrong ones, you'll always feel like you're trying too hard. You'll rehearse what you want to say before you say it. You'll replay conversations in your head afterward, wondering if you gave away too much. You'll notice your joy doesn't flow around them, it gets stuck. And that blockage, that resistance, that tension is God revealing what your eyes haven't yet seen. One of the clearest ways God reveals fake people in your life is through inconsistency. It's when someone's words sound good, but their actions tell a different story. It's when they promise you loyalty but vanish when it counts. It's when they tell you they've got your back, but you turn around and realize no one's there. See, God doesn't just show you people through what they say, He shows you through what they do when no one is watching. Fake people struggle to maintain consistency because pretending takes too much energy. You can put on a mask for a while, but eventually it slips, and that's when their real character shows up. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, "I'm always here for you"? And in the moment, you believed it because it sounded right, but fast forward to when life tested that claim. You needed someone to stand with you, you needed encouragement, you needed a helping hand, and suddenly the one who said, "I'll always be here," had 100 excuses. That's not bad timing, that's God revealing. Because real people, the ones He assigns to your life, don't disappear when it gets inconvenient. Their consistency proves their heart. Pay attention to patterns. Consistency isn't about perfection, it's about reliability. A fake friend might check in one day, disappear for months, then show up again only when it benefits them. Their support has conditions. Their loyalty has fine print. They're around when things are fun, but when it requires sacrifice, they vanish. That's not accident, that's inconsistency, and God uses it like a spotlight to show you who you're really dealing with. You'll notice it in the small things first. Maybe they don't follow through on simple promises. Maybe they say they'll call back and never do. Maybe they say they'll show up to support you but always have something more important when the time comes. Those little cracks are God's way of showing you the foundation isn't solid. Because if someone can't be trusted with small things, how can they be trusted with big ones? And then there's the inconsistency in the way they treat you. One day, they're your biggest fan, hyping you up, telling you they're proud of you. The next day, they're cold, distant, or even critical for no reason. That flop is exhausting, but it's also revealing. People who are genuine don't change their posture toward you depending on their mood or what they can get from you. But fake people, they'll treat you based on convenience, not commitment. God allows that inconsistency to show so you stop putting your trust in words that don't hold weight. Another way inconsistency reveals itself is through their loyalty in public versus private. In your face, they'll say, "We're family, I've got your back." But in rooms where your name comes up, their silence speaks louder than their words. They're inconsistent because their allegiance isn't really with you. It's with whatever benefits them in the moment. God lets those inconsistencies slip through because he doesn't want you building trust on shaky ground. Notice how inconsistent people often have a story for everything. They'll explain away their absence. They'll justify why they didn't show up. They'll make excuses for why they didn't keep their word. And at first you might accept it. You might give grace. But over time, the pattern becomes undeniable. God doesn't reveal fakeness with one event. He reveals it with repeated inconsistency until you can't ignore it anymore. Consistency is a reflection of character. If someone's character is solid, their behavior matches their words. They don't have to keep convincing you of who they are because you see it lived out day after day. Fake people, though, can't hold the act forever. They'll slip, they'll contradict themselves, they'll tell you one thing and live another. And when you start noticing those cracks, don't just brush them off as coincidence. That's God answering your prayer for clarity. And here's what makes this powerful. God isn't trying to hurt you when he shows you someone's inconsistency. He's protecting you from deeper disappointment. Because if someone's already inconsistent now, what makes you think they'll suddenly become reliable when life gets hard? If they can't handle being steady in the small seasons, they're not meant to carry weight with you in the big ones. One of the biggest ways God exposes fake people in your life is when you go through a testing season. Because let's be honest, it's easy for people to stand next to you when everything looks good. It's easy to be your friend when you're winning, when you're laughing, when you're celebrating, when you've got energy to pour out and nothing heavy on your shoulders. Let life hit you. Let the money slow down. Let your health get challenged. Let your heart get broken. Let pressure start squeezing you. And suddenly, you'll find out who was really there for you and who was just there for you in good times. Testing seasons are like fire. They burn away the surface and reveal what's underneath. When you're tested, people don't have the luxury of keeping their masks on. They either show up or they don't. They either stand firm or they fall away. And God allows those seasons because he knows you need to see the difference. If you only judge people by how they acted when life was easy, you'd never know who could actually weather a storm with you. Think about the times you've gone through something heavy. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe you went through heartbreak. Maybe you were in a season where depression sat on your chest every morning. Who showed up? Who called? Who sat with you without needing anything back? Who checked in on you without you having to ask? Those are the ones God highlighted as real. And then think about who disappeared. The ones who got quiet. The ones who only popped up when they needed something from you but never offered help when you were the one in need. That wasn't random. That was God revealing. Fake people can't stand the heat of testing seasons because they were never invested in you. They were invested in the benefits of being around you. They like the laughs, the connections, the good energy you brought. But when you couldn't provide that anymore, they lost interest. And God will let you see that, not to make you bitter, but to make you wiser. So you stop carrying people into your next chapter who were never built to last. And here's the thing, sometimes it's not even about people disappearing. Sometimes they stay, but their true heart is revealed in how they respond. You share your struggles, and instead of offering comfort, they minimize it. You tell them you're hurting, and instead of support, you get judgment. They tell you things like, "It's not that bad," or "Just get over it." That lack of empathy is just as revealing as absence. Because real people, the ones God wants in your life, may not fix everything, but they'll feel with you, they'll carry some of the weight. They'll stand in the fire with you, not stand outside and watch. You'll also notice how testing seasons reveal motives. Some people stay around, but only if they can still gain something. They'll act supportive, but deep down, they're frustrated because your struggle means less benefit for them. That irritation slips out in little ways, in their tone, in their lack of patience, in how quick they are to change the subject. And once again, God lets you see it, because He doesn't want you fooled by surface loyalty. He wants you to discern true commitment. Testing seasons don't just reveal others, they sharpen your own discernment. You start remembering who came through for you when you had nothing to offer back. You start recognizing who actually listens, who actually prays for you, who actually notices when you go silent. That's why you can't despise hard seasons. Yes, they hurt. Yes, they stretch you. But they also clean your circle. They separate the ones who are just pretending from the ones who are truly assigned to your life. And maybe you've been in that place where you looked around and felt like you had nobody. The people you thought would hold you up were nowhere to be found. That loneliness hurts, but even in that, God is speaking. Because sometimes He clears the room so you learn not to lean on people more than you lean on Him. And after that lesson, He'll start sending the right ones, the ones who don't just love the shine, but are willing to walk through shadows with you. Because in the end, it's never the good times that prove loyalty. Anybody can clap when the music is playing. The test comes when the music stops, when you're broke, when you're sick, when you're grieving, when you're rebuilding, when you're silent and can't pour into anyone else. That's when true character shows, and God will use those moments to peel back the cover and show you exactly who's real and who is just a placeholder in your story. One of the sharpest ways God reveals fake people in your life is through gossip and betrayal, because you can only fake loyalty for so long before the truth leaks out of your mouth. It always does. People who don't truly care for you can wear the mask for a while, but when they're in rooms where you're not present, when they're with people who don't know the whole story, that's when their real heart spills out. And sooner or later, it always makes its way back to you, not by accident, but by design. God makes sure you hear it, even if it's by the smallest slip, so that you can finally see clearly who you've been trusting. Gossip is a window into the soul. Pay close attention to what people say about others when you're alone. Because if they can sit with you and tear someone else down without hesitation, what makes you think your name isn't being tossed around the second you leave? That's God giving you a preview. He's showing you how they handle loyalty, how they handle trust, how they handle relationships. And if gossip is their habit, betrayal is always right behind it. Betrayal doesn't always come in the form of something dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. It's sharing information you told them in confidence. It's downplaying your success to others so you don't shine too bright. It's exaggerating your flaws to make themselves look better. And the painful part is, it usually comes from the people you least expect. The ones you thought you were safe with, the ones you gave the benefit of the doubt, the ones you would have defended if someone else accused them. But God allows you to hear that betrayal, to experience that cut, so you stop giving your heart to hands that were never meant to hold it. There's something revealing about betrayal. It shows you how people really saw you all along. They might have smiled in your face, clapped for you, laughed with you, but the moment they felt the chance to benefit from your absence, they took it. That's not just immaturity, that's intention. And as painful as it is, that pain is also a gift because it opens your eyes. You can keep walking blind, trusting everyone's words. God loves you too much to let you keep pouring into empty vessels. And here's the thing about gossip and betrayal. It always feels like a shock, but when you look back, you realize the signs were there. The little digs, the way they always asked for information but never really shared theirs. The way they leaned in when drama was involved but went quiet when encouragement was needed. That wasn't harmless. That was a glimpse into their heart. And eventually, God lets it all come out so you can stop being fooled by the surface. The worst part is, betrayal always comes from proximity. Strangers can't betray you, only people you've given access to. Only people who know your weaknesses, your secrets, your dreams, your fears. That's why it cuts so deep. And that's why when it happens, it feels like your chest caves in. But even in that moment, God is working. Because He's not exposing them to break you. He's exposing them so you stop giving them what they don't deserve. He's teaching you the difference between someone who walks with you out of love and someone who sticks close because of convenience. Pay attention to how betrayal often lines up with elevation. The moment you start moving forward, the moment you start gaining ground, that's when the whispers begin. Suddenly, people who claim to support you start saying, "You've changed," or "You think you're better than us." That's not just insecurity talking, that's God revealing parts that were never for you in the first place. Because true friends celebrate your growth, they don't sabotage you. True friends guard your name in every room, they don't let it get dragged around. So when gossip starts rising as you rise, it's not coincidence, it's clarity. And sometimes God lets betrayal be loud and undeniable in your face so you don't second guess it. Because if the exposure was quiet, you'd justify it. You'd make excuses. You'd tell yourself maybe they didn't mean it. But when it's loud, when it's obvious, when the knife in your back leaves no doubt, you can't run from the truth anymore. That's not cruelty, that's God's mercy. Because now you're free to step into your next chapter without carrying people who are secretly rooting for your downfall. One of the clearest ways God shows you who's real, who's fake, is by how people respond when it's your time to shine. Because let's be honest, it doesn't take much to figure out who your enemies are. They'll make themselves known, they'll talk loud, they'll show their pain. But the harder ones to spot are the ones who claim to be in your corner, yet go silent the moment you succeed. And that silence is loud. That lack of support is one of the sharpest revelations God gives you. Think about it. You post an accomplishment, you start a new chapter, you hit a milestone, and the people you thought would be clapping the loudest are nowhere to be found. They don't say congratulations. They don't pick up the phone. They don't send a simple message. Instead, they act like it didn't even happen. Or worse, they downplay it. They find a way to make it seem small, as if your blessing isn't worth celebrating. That's not a coincidence. That's God opening your eyes. Because genuine people don't have to be told to support you. They just do. Watch who claps when you win. That's one of life's simplest tests of loyalty. Because real friends, real family, real connections don't see your success as a threat. They see it as proof that breakthrough is possible. They're proud of you because your win feels like a win for the whole circle. Fake people, though, can't handle it. They sit in quiet jealousy. They scroll past your good news. They talk behind your back about how it's not that big of a deal, or you just got lucky. That's not love. That's envy dressed up as friendship. And God makes sure you notice it. Sometimes it's not even about the big moments. It's the small ones too. You start a new project, launch a business, share a creative idea, and the people closest to you don't bother to show interest. They'll watch strangers support you online. They'll watch people who barely know you clap and cheer. But the ones you sacrificed for, the ones you poured into, act like your dream is invisible. That's God revealing. Because He doesn't want you investing your energy in people who secretly don't believe in you. And here's what stings. You'll remember all the times you supported them. You'll remember clapping when they got their promotion, listening when they shared their ideas, being there when they needed encouragement. But when it's your turn, suddenly they're busy. Suddenly they're quiet. Suddenly they're distant. That imbalance hurts, but it also exposes the truth. Real love is reciprocal. It doesn't take turns. It doesn't disappear when the spotlight shifts. Fake love, on the other hand, only works when the attention benefits them. Notice how lack of support shows up in subtle ways too. They'll say things like, "That's nice, but don't get your hopes up." They'll remind you of every reason it might not work. They'll plant seeds of doubt instead of seeds of faith. And it always comes disguised as just being realistic. But the truth is, they're not protecting you, they're projecting their own insecurities. And God lets you hear it, not so you shrink back, but so you learn who you can and can't trust with your dreams. You'll also see it in the way they try to change the subject. You're sharing your excitement, your vision, your accomplishment, and instead of engaging, they pivot the conversation back to themselves. They can't stand for the spotlight to be on you, even for a moment. And while you're left wondering if you're asking for too much, God is quietly showing you that you're not asking for too much, you're just asking it from the wrong point. Sometimes God will even strip away all the support you thought you have, just so you learn how to keep moving without applause. Because the truth is, not everyone is meant to cheer for you. Some are meant to doubt you, to test your resolve, to force you to stand firm when nobody else is watching. And through that lack of support, He reveals who's fake, but He also reveals a deeper strength in you. Because once you stop depending on their approval, you start depending on His. And when that shift happens, you'll realize the lack of support wasn't a curse. It was clarity. You didn't lose anything. You just found out what was real and what was pretend. You stopped mistaking proximity for loyalty. You stopped confusing history for commitment. And you learned that silence speaks just as loud as words. Jealousy is one of the clearest ways God pulls the mask off fake people in your life. Because you can fake encouragement, you can fake laughter, you can even fake loyalty for a while, but jealousy has a way of leaking through, no matter how hard someone tries to hide it. The moment you start moving forward, the moment you start walking in blessings that they don't have, something shifts. You'll notice it in their tone, in their silence, in the way their eyes roll just a little too quick when you share your good news. That shift is not by accident. That's God showing you their true heart. It starts small. You mention a win, and instead of saying, "I'm proud of you," they brush it off with a half-hearted, "That's cool," or they quickly change the subject. They'll smile, but it doesn't reach their eyes. They'll give you a pat on the back, but the energy is hollow, and deep down, you feel it. You know the difference between someone who's genuinely excited for you and someone who's pretending because they don't want to expose what they really feel. That tension you sense is God whispering that jealousy is in the room. Jealousy shows up in comparison. All of a sudden, your success makes them talk more about theirs. You tell them you got promoted, and right away they say, yeah, I'm about to get a raise too. You share how you've been blessed, and they immediately try to one-up you. They can't just let you have your moment. They need to make sure they don't feel small standing next to you. That's not support, that's competition. And if you're paying attention, you'll realize competition and friendship don't mix. God uses those moments to open your eyes so you stop trusting people who secretly see you as a rival. You'll notice jealousy in the way they minimize your accomplishments. You might tell them you finally finished that degree, started that business, or reached that personal goal, and instead of celebrating, they say things like, anybody could do that, or it's not really that impressive. They'll disguise it as honesty, but really it's envy. They don't want to admit they're upset you did something they didn't. And God lets you hear those words not to crush you, but to confirm what your spirit already sensed, that their heart doesn't align with their smile. Sometimes jealousy doesn't even look like negativity. It looks like absence. They disappear when you're winning. They avoid your celebrations. They skip your events. They don't show up because seeing you shine makes them uncomfortable. They don't want to be reminded that you've moved forward while they stayed the same. And as painful as that silence feels, it's also a revelation, because true friends will show up even if they're struggling themselves. Jealousy, on the other hand, can't clap for anyone else until it feels like it has the upper hand. And here's the thing, jealousy isn't always loud. It's not always gossip or obvious hate. Sometimes it's subtle. It's that fake laugh, that tight smile, that quick look that passes across their face before they catch themselves. You see it, even if they don't think you noticed. And when you replay the moment in your mind later, it sticks with you. That's not imagination. That's God showing you what your heart couldn't see on its own. Jealousy also reveals itself when blessings start to multiply in your life. One thing goes right, they can handle it. But when one blessing after another keeps coming, they can't hide it anymore. Their energy changes. They start throwing shade, they distance themselves, they talk about you differently when you're not in the room. That shift is God saying, pay attention. This person's spirit can't handle your growth. Because if someone can't celebrate you in your season of increase, they'll never truly be happy for you when you step into your destiny. You'll also notice how jealous people often try to make you feel guilty for succeeding. They throw comments like, you must be nice, or not all of us have it that easy, as if you should apologize for what God gave you. They can't just be glad. They have to bring you down so they don't feel left behind. That's the trick of jealousy. It doesn't just stay quiet, it tries to infect you with shame. But the fact that you even feel the weight of their words is proof God is showing you what's really going on. The truth is, jealousy exposes loyalty, because real loyalty doesn't flinch when you win. Real friends know that your success doesn't take away from theirs. They cheer for you like it's their own victory. But fake ones can't do that. Their jealousy is too loud to ignore. And God will let you see it in moments when you least expect it, because He doesn't want you blinded by fake cheers when your destiny requires real support. Sometimes God doesn't give you a warning. He doesn't give you a dream. He doesn't even give you a word about who's fake and who's real. He just starts removing people. Calls stop coming. Messages slow down. Invitations disappear, and you find yourself wondering, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Did I offend them? But that silence, that distance, that unexpected separation, it's not always rejection. Many times it's divine removal. It's God quietly stepping in and pulling someone out of your life before they can damage your future. It hurts when people drift away, especially when you thought they were permanent. You start replaying conversations in your head. You start blaming yourself. You start thinking maybe you could have done more to keep them close. But sometimes keeping them close is the very thing God is protecting you from. Because He sees what you can't. He hears the conversations you weren't invited to. He knows the thoughts they never spoke out loud. And in His mercy, He begins to separate you, not because you're losing, but because you're being saved. Divine removal doesn't always make sense in the moment. You might look around and feel lonely. You might wonder why people you loved, supported, and sacrificed for are suddenly distant. But later, when the dust settles, you realize they didn't have the capacity to go where God was taking you. They couldn't handle your growth. They couldn't celebrate your blessing. They couldn't be trusted with the weight of your calling. So instead of letting them poison your path, God cut the tie for you. And here's the thing, God knows how stubborn our hearts can be. We hold on to people because of history. We say, we've been friends for years. We've known each other since we were kids. They've always been there. But God isn't bound by history. He's focused on destiny. And sometimes the people you thought would walk with you forever were only assigned to a chapter, not the whole story. You don't always have the strength to end it, so God does it for you. That's why doors close. That's why conversations stop. That's why relationships fade without explanation. Divine removal often feels like betrayal, but it's not. It feels like abandonment, but it's not. It's protection. Because God knows if He let them stay, Their hidden intentions would eventually be exposed in a way that breaks you. So he moves them out quietly. He allows the connection to dry up. And as much as you want to chase after it deep down, you sense it's not supposed to be revived. That gut feeling that tells you not to reach back, that's God whispering that the separation is sacred. You'll notice divine removal when people you once relied on stop being available. You text them, and it's silence. You call, and they don't answer. You make plans, and suddenly they're always busy. At first, you take it personal. But over time, you start to recognize the pattern. God is weaning you off of them. Because maybe you lean too much on their voice instead of His. Maybe you put too much trust in their presence instead of trusting His presence. And the only way to realign your focus is to let them slip away. Sometimes divine removal happens right when you're about to step into a new season. You get a promotion, a new opportunity, a fresh vision, and right at that same moment, certain people start disappearing. That's not coincidence, that's alignment. God knows not everyone has the character to handle the version of you He's building. He knows some people would secretly sabotage or hold you back, so He clears the path before you even take the next step. And as painful as it feels, there's also a strange peace that comes with it. At first you grieve, you miss the conversations, you miss the laughs, you miss what you thought you had. But slowly you begin to notice the weight lifting. You realize you're not drained anymore. You realize you're not second guessing yourself as much. You realize the atmosphere around you feels lighter. That's not by accident. That's the fruit of God's removal. He took away what you thought you needed so you could finally breathe. Divine removal teaches you something valuable, that absence is an answer. You don't always need closure. You don't always need an explanation. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. And if you're willing to trust God, you'll understand that every person who left made room for someone better aligned with where you're going. Every empty space was preparation for a greater connection. And every goodbye you didn't understand was setting you up for a future you couldn't see yet. There's a kind of peace that shows up only after you let someone go, and that peace is one of the clearest ways God confirms that person was never meant to stay in your life. Because before the release, you're restless. You're questioning yourself. You're asking if you're being too harsh, if you're overthinking, if you should keep giving them another chance. You carry the weight of their energy, the confusion of their mixed signals, the frustration of their lack of consistency. And the moment you finally make the decision to step back, to cut ties, to stop forcing what's not working, it feels like your soul can breathe again. That relief is not an accident. That calm is God's way of saying, this is what I wanted for you all along. It's strange because before the release, you thought losing them would break you. You thought you wouldn't know how to function without their presence. You imagine loneliness swallowing you whole. But instead, once the distance is there, you feel lighter. You wake up without the same heaviness on your chest. You stop second, guessing every word you say. You don't feel drained after every interaction because those interactions aren't happening anymore. And in that quiet space, you begin to realize that what you thought was love or loyalty was actually stress, anxiety, and distraction. God lets you feel that shift so you can see the truth clearly. Peace after release doesn't always come instantly. Sometimes it shows up gradually. You'll notice it in little ways at first. You laugh easier. You focus better. You start sleeping more deeply. You stop rehearsing old conversations in your head. You notice you don't have to keep walking on eggshells, wondering if they're upset, wondering if you said the wrong thing, wondering if they're truly on your side. That mental weight is gone. That's peace. And it's God's way of confirming you didn't lose a blessing, you lost a burden. And the most powerful part of that peace is that it doesn't come from circumstances changing around you. It comes from removing one person who was never aligned with you. That shows you how much of your unrest wasn't about your environment, your job, or your responsibilities. It was about the energy of who you were allowing close. Sometimes your spirit isn't unsettled because life is hard. It's unsettled because you're carrying someone who was never meant to go with you. The moment you set them down, the storm inside you quiets. Peace after release also teaches you something about yourself. It shows you that you were stronger than you thought. You were more resilient than you believed. Because all that time you were clinging to that relationship, that friendship, that connection, you were convincing yourself you couldn't live without it. But when it finally broke and you stepped into the unknown, you realized not only could you live without it, you could live better without it. That realization is part of God's revelation. He uses peace as proof that the separation was His will. There's also a spiritual stillness that comes after release. You find yourself hearing God's voice more clearly. You find yourself praying with less distraction. You notice that the fog you were in starts to lift, and clarity begins to return. That's because faith people pride in discernment. Their presence creates noise in your spirit. But when they're gone, your soul finally has space to receive what God's been trying to tell you. That's not coincidence, that's divine confirmation. And what's interesting is that people around you might not understand. They might say, "Why did you let them go? They didn't seem like that." They might think you're being harsh or unforgiving. They don't live with the weight you carry. They don't know how unsettled your spirit felt. They don't know the nights you wrestled with doubt and loneliness. Only you know the difference between how you felt before and how you feel now. And God doesn't need everyone else to confirm it. He confirms it with peace. Sometimes peace after release feels so good that you start to wonder why you waited so long. You look back and realize you ignored red flags, silenced your own intuition, made excuses for their behavior, all because you were afraid of losing them. But the moment you let go, you finally gained yourself back. You regained your confidence, your focus, your joy. That's why God allows peace to flood in. It's His way of saying, see, I told you I had something better for you. That kind of peace can't be faked. You can tell yourself you're fine while holding on to the wrong person, but your spirit knows better. Your spirit won't rest until you make the cut. And once you do, the contrast is undeniable. The storm breaks. The weight lifts. The air feels clearer. And you realize that the release wasn't the end of something good. It was the beginning of something right. At the end of the day, God is not trying to punish you when He exposes fake people. He's trying to protect you. Every red flag, every moment of inconsistency, every sudden distance, every uncomfortable truth, every unanswered prayer, every shift in your peace, and every removal you didn't understand. It was all Him showing you that not everyone is meant to go where He's taking you. And it's not because you don't deserve love, loyalty, or support. It's because you deserve the right kind of love, the right kind of loyalty, and the right kind of support. God never subtracts without multiplying later. If He pulled someone away, it's because He saw what you couldn't. If He allowed silence to replace noise, it's because peace was more valuable than their presence. If He removed a relationship you thought you needed, it's because He knew it would break you down instead of build you up. You may not see it now, but every loss is a setup for a greater gain. So instead of clinging to what God is trying to cut, learn to trust the process. Stop running after people He's already revealed. Stop questioning whether you're enough when the truth is they were never aligned. And stop confusing temporary pain with permanent loss, because what feels like a breakup in your story is often the breakthrough God has been preparing you for. The revelation of fake people is not about them. It's about you. It's about your growth, your healing, your clarity, and your future. God is clearing the path, not because He's leaving you empty, but because He's making space for what's real, for what's true, and for what's meant to last.